The content you're about to hear may be graphic in nature. Listener discretion is advised. This is True Crime XS.
As we get further and further along and closer to like Christmas Eve and stuff, these get a little like darker and depressing. And I did not do that on purpose. Had you ever heard, or do you remember the podcast Dirty John? That story was always interesting to me because of like,
I want to be clear. I didn't listen to the podcast. I am familiar with this story.
Went to.
Just FYI, yeah.
Okay. So the story I chose for today had like kind of elements that reminded me of that. I grabbed a bunch of articles from the Baltimore Sun that are old. They're all at least 25 years old. I think the bulk of them were written by someone named Linnell Smith, Linnell Smith. But there were multiple reporters on each one. Margot Athens is on one of them. Ann Lordo is on another. Patricia Measles on another. This story does not get the attention that it should. And it is absolutely fascinating how it goes. And it lasts longer than some of these type situations, but not for like the exact reason of like the hostage taking. The guy that we're going to be talking about today was born in Baltimore, Maryland, back in November of 1968. His name is Joseph Chester Polsinski. Most of the stories on him, for some reason, have been archived in a way that you cannot retrieve them easily, which is why I mentioned like going back and kind of digging up the Baltimore Sun articles. I used newspapers.com originally, but even some of that was not well scanned or something. Like there were mistakes that had been made. And so I ended up having to go into the like archive.org quite a bit for this one. And it starts with this story from Linnell Smith that's called A Tragic Trail of Violence. And it looks like it's part of a 4-part series, maybe. I really only pulled from 2 of them. I knew a good bit of this story, but I wanted to be able to tell some of the parts that like aren't in the summaries and you don't hear as much about. Because we're focused on doing these like longer hostage situation stories. I thought that might be appropriate. But here's how they start this one off. It says, long before the murderous rampage, long before the saga of fugitive love and violence, and long before hostages, Joe Polsinski was known as a ladies' man. He had GQ looks, a buff body, an expensive sports car, money to burn, and a questionable past that clung to him like heady cologne. He was, quote, a bad boy, the type that always seems to attract women, particularly young women. Imagine being a high school girl, 16, maybe 17. How can you not be flattered by the attentions of this handsome guy who makes time to pick you up from school in his Nissan 300 ZX? He shows you an album that's filled with photographs of more than a dozen girls he's known, all young, slim, glossy-haired, and smiling. It's clear he can choose any woman he wants, but instead, he chooses you, and it takes your breath away. In the beginning, dating, quote, Joby, like Joby, is like starring in a romantic movie. He's 5'8", 170 pounds of martial arts muscle. He's got sandy brown hair and hazel eyes. He's endlessly polite, clean cut. He's almost preppy, Even his jeans are pressed. He has a job as a lifeguard, and he has friends who jump whenever he makes a request or snaps his fingers. You know he's calling you when your pager flashes the number 007, which is the number of his hero, James Bond. On your first date, he takes you to meet his mom, Miss Pat, who's real pretty and couldn't be nicer. Anyone her son loves, she says, she loves too. Joby has seen a few things you'd rather not know about, so you don't listen much when he talks about making hit lists or buying weapons or being locked up. You believe that people can change. You really tune it out when he blames those girls for getting him in trouble. You know, you're nothing like them. He phones you constantly. He buys you flowers and gifts. He takes you horseback riding, arranges picnic lunches in the park. You go out on his jet skis and you drive around like royalty. He tells you how beautiful you are, how special. He says he's going to be with you forever, no matter what. It seems too good to be true. And that's because it is. I thought that was the perfect opening for this story. This guy is, in my opinion, kind of wild. It has like the strangest twists and turns to the story. At one point, we get this from the Joseph Pelzinski story in the Baltimore Sun. We get a take on it called Two Faces of Terror. It's kind of out of order. I did that so I can kind of tell you the whole story. This would have been part one of the Baltimore Sun story on this kid. And it's talking about Amy Gearhart. It says Amy Gearhart was 15 when Joby surprised her with balloons on Valentine's Day. He wrote in her 1987 yearbook that he was wrapped around her little finger and loving it. The two of them met at Perry Hall High School. Joby is the handsome senior. He rescued her from her sophomore obscurity and a claustrophobic home life. Now, I didn't go to high school in the 80s. I went to high school in the 90s. And I can only imagine it's probably not all that dissimilar. Do you remember high school being kind of a weird time? Or
I do not remember high school as being fun. I don't remember it fondly. High school is hard for everybody. And even the cool kids or the kids that you think have it together. It is a time for impressions to be made, right? Which is exactly like what it sounded like this dude spent a lot of time doing, was to convince other people like how great he was.
Yeah. He spends a lot of time in his cars. We get a different car in this part of the story. So we have the Nissan 300ZX and the piece I chose to open with. At this point in time, when he's chasing Amy Gearhart around, he's driving a shiny Mustang. And he's still very polite at this time. He convinces Amy's parents that she's old enough to go out on a car date. He takes her in June of 1987 to the senior prom. He wears a white tuxedo. They've got this picture that Amy references in the article. And she says during the 5 months they were together, she discovered that he was not that thing that he was putting on. And the other side of the boyfriend, according to her, that side, Joby kept guns stashed under his bed. He had guns in his car. And once he had held a knife to her throat. Now, he was out there. He referred to himself as having two personalities. He said Joby number one was very calm and rational, and Joby number two was angry and strange. And when people tell you things like that, you should believe them. Just believe that they're not all that unique. They're just deciding they don't want to control the second part of their personality. So we're going to bounce around a little bit.
So you just said something really interesting. I would have 1,000,000% believed somebody that told me that. And then I would never have anything to do with them again.
I think that's how things should go.
Yeah, like they're not kidding. They're not kidding. Or if they were kidding, you don't want to deal with that kind of drama. Right.
And so this part of the story is not the hostage taking, but like it is a really good red flag preview of the drama that is to come. And it there is drama that tips over into violence. And I personally would say that this story is it's about as violent as you can get in terms of how you're interacting with individuals. And it takes place years before what we're going to get to. And we're still in the 80s. So Amy has this encounter on July 24th, 1987. When she's telling this story, it's been 13 years. But she and the people that saw it happen, they remember what happened on July 24th, 1987. She had been hanging out over in Ocean City. She's in a parking lot near the beach. She is literally eating ice cream, like a Ben & Jerry's size container. She had been spending the week with her family and one of her friends, which is a thing that you do when you're a senior in high school. We even had senior weeks where we would all go, like me and my classmates went together my senior year, and I had gone to a previous one. It's where everybody gets together and you're acting like teenagers. The things that you're doing that seem adventurous are not really all that dangerous. And on this trip, Amy does not expect to see Joby at all. But she is standing and talking to another guy, and she says that she had the little wooden spoon up and was giving the guy a bite of ice cream without any explanation. She sees Joby out of the corner of her eye, and he slams into her and knocks her to the ground.
Him, right?
Yeah. This is the big cheat for 17-year-olds. So
that's a red flag, by the way.
He gets her to the ground. Okay. God, yes. Please, yes, no. This is a massive red flag. This guy starts kicking her and beating her. And honestly, like, this story, I know we're telling it like in a Christmas episode. The more I dug into it, and I realized, like, once I got to certain portions of it where excerpts of the Baltimore story had won awards, I realized, like, this would make an excellent 10 or 12 part, like, Dirty John style series. I don't know if that exists out there. I have not heard it. I actually had a little trouble researching this because of, like, how old everything was in terms of the media about it. And I was like, how is nobody
I think it's because of
the
timing, probably more so than anything.
Yeah. That's probably true. So he gets her on the ground. He's kicking her. He's beating her. The people that she's there in this parking lot with are trying to intervene. The police arrive. He squeezes Amy's hand in a way that, like, is like a silent signal that if you talk, I'm going to do it again. And he whispers to her, don't tell him anything. And she doesn't. Even though all these people just saw this happen, she doesn't.
Which is like a hallmark of domestic abuse.
It is. Like, this is the early phase of abusive relationships, like, in terms of, like, years, like, age. But, like, this is like a married couple that she is hiding abuse to protect her partner, who doesn't need protection. He needs intervention.
Right, but she's got to deal with the fallout, which is the power control aspect of domestic abuse, right? And so there she is. And Can you imagine being a bystander here? You see a guy out of nowhere just start beating his girlfriend.
I have not seen anything, like, in person that is as violent as is described here.
It's almost like ridiculous, right?
It is ridiculous. And, like, I've seen incidents where couples who are clearly in toxic relationship do something in public, and I've known some of them, and some of them I haven't known. And when things like this happened, it's very difficult to intervene when it's so embarrassingly
right, but anytime
ridiculous.
There's anybody beating on one another, you should probably call the authorities.
Right, and the cops do get called, and Joby calmly tells the officers that he was just looking for his watch and his ring, which he had lost in the parking lot. So the police leave.
Did he think that he was going to beat it out of her?
With that excuse. Beat it out of the parking lot, I guess. He's going to use her as the weapon. Terrible what he does. After the police leave, he walks this girl toward the ocean, and he drags along her friend's 14-year-old brother, Jason, to join them. And he tells them he needs a witness. So they get to the beach, and he forces the two of them to hold hands and walk in front of him like prisoners. He's kicking them and he's hitting them to keep them moving forward. And they walk at least a half a mile to the point that they get to the state line, to the Delaware line. He is screaming and blaming Amy for making him lose a ring, for ruining his life. He's interrogating Jason. He's interrogating Amy about where
Do we
everyone
know if
is
he was
sleeping.
the kid who was eating the ice cream off the spoon?
My impression is that he's a brother of one of her friends. I don't think anything is going on between them, but like it kind of unfolds as we go.
Sorry.
I don't have a strong sense of how he fits into all of this.
It does seem plausible that feeding ice cream to your friend's kid brother off of a spoon had absolutely no flirtation to it at all.
I mean, it can go either way. It doesn't matter. It doesn't justify
not at
what
all,
he did.
But like he's like, man, I didn't want to taste the ice cream that bad.
Right. So he's interrogating this 14-year-old boy and his girlfriend. Like his girlfriend, not the 14-year-old boy's girlfriend. He wants to know where everybody's been sleeping at this condo. He wants to know who Amy had been hanging out with that week. He forces them to sit down with their backs to a chain link fence. They're cross-legged. They're in the sand. They're cross-legged in the sand. And he's like threatening them. He says he's going to break their legs. He tells Jason to hit Amy. And Jason looks at him like, are you insane? And then he refuses. So Joby grabs Jason's hand. He hits Amy in the chest multiple times. And at one point in this argument, by the way, Jason is very small, like even for 14, he's small, he's thin, and Joby kind of towers over him and out-muscles him. But Amy tells him to run for help. So he does. So Jason's gone. Joby is now left on the beach with just Amy and his misplaced rage. And he focuses it on her. And he tells her that she needs to choose how she wants to die. He can drown her, he can choke her, or he can beat her to death. He also threatens to kill her family. He's pounding his chest. She is pleading with him. And she finally spots a group of men who are fishing. And she breaks free from him. And she runs over to one of the men has a flashlight. And she grabs the flashlight and points it at her face so that they can see what her boyfriend has just done. And the other Joby suddenly shows up, comes up and says, no, we're fine. We're going to go over here under the streetlight and talk things out. They don't need to get involved. And Amy, again, just goes along with it. So Joby gets her under the streetlight, and he actually sees her face. And he becomes a totally new person. He cries, he apologizes, he begs for forgiveness. But Amy's going to have to go to the urgent care at the beach. And it's going to show that, like, her eardrum is busted. According to her story, she won't be able to hear correctly for months. She has lacerations and swelling on her cheek and her nose. Her right eye is bruised to the point that, like, it's got, like, red marks on it. She has a bruised rib cage. And she doesn't want to press charges once her parents get involved here, but her mom makes her. She says, if we don't do this, he'll keep on doing it. And Amy's mom would later recall receiving a phone call from Joby's mother demanding that she drop the charges. And Amy's mother said, no, your son is an abuser, and one day he is going to kill somebody. So that fall, Amy was alarmed to see that Joby had moved on to a 16-year-old named Kimberly. As horrible as it sounds, Kimberly eventually comes to Amy for advice because Joby had given her a black eye. And she wants to know, how did you get away from him? Amy tells her to get a restraining order, press charges, because there's going to be more victims. Now, Kimberly doesn't get interviewed for this story. The next victim, who's a 17-year-old girl named Sharon, she doesn't get interviewed for the story. Their last names are not released in any public documents that I found because at the time that these things were happening, they were minors. But from everything that we can tell about them, just like Amy Gearhart, they all got to know who was Joby number 2. Now, Kimberly's mom puts together the paperwork for the police and with the police about this incident. And from one of those documents, October 18th, 1987, it says that Joseph Polzinski searched through Kim's bedroom without permission while she was in the shower. While he was searching, he found that she had birth control pills, and the discovery of these pills made him angry because he did not want her taking them. And as a result, he began to slap Kim several times in the face with an open hand and the back of his hand, so the palm and the back of his hand. This resulted in a black eye and bruising of the right and left cheekbones. So her right eye is black, her cheekbones are bruised. And after this series of slaps in the face, Joseph punches Kimberly in the stomach, knocks her to the ground, and he continues to threaten her, stating that if she doesn't do what he says, he will do this again. According to the same documents, February 21st, 1988, Joseph had pulled Kimberly into a bedroom at his house, which he's apparently living with his grandmother at this time. And he stated to Kimberly he wanted to have sex with her. She says no. He becomes very angry, and he punches her with a closed fist, causing multiple bruises along Kimberly's breastbone. He then comes out of this bedroom, wherever he's taken her. He goes into a closet, and he gets a razor blade. And he tells her, if you don't come here and talk to me, I'm going to beat you some more, whether my grandmother is here or not. He ends up being convicted in this situation of beating Kimberly, and he gets 2 years of supervised probation. So in January of 1989, he ends up having to go to court for the charges related to Amy Gearhart. He pleads not guilty by reason of insanity. A psychiatrist finds him competent to stand trial, and he ends up being sentenced to 4 years in prison. He serves 2 years, and he gets some additional time for attempting to escape from prison. He gets counseling there, and he is described, according to these documents, as deliberately having sought out dangerous situations consistent with a fantasy identity. And because it's the late 1980s, early 90s, they say that he identifies as being a, quote, Rambo-like hero. That is a really weird thing to say, but okay. When he's 22 years old, he's finally released in April of 1991. He returns home to live with his mom and his stepdad. He works part-time at an athletic supply store. He takes those lifeguard courses that we talked about, and he occasionally does some construction work. There are multiple reports that his life at home is strained. His parents don't want him seeing high school girls, which I don't think 22, 23-year-olds should see high school girls. Do you?
They shouldn't. Unless they're just really behind, 19-year-old high school girls or whatever. But no.
Yeah. It's different worlds, though. Like the 4 years difference there, or 5 years, or whatever it is.
Yeah, his parents aren't wrong.
So he's been sneaking these girls into his house. By August of 1991, he moves into an apartment. He has 2 roommates. He is dating that 17-year-old we mentioned named Sharon. And in September, less than 6 months after he gets out of his jail term, he is warned by the assistant principal not to be on the school grounds anymore, and he's trespassed. So he is later going to be arrested for attacking Sharon there. The document that goes with this is from November 8th, 1991. It says, "We were arguing in front of school. I proceeded into the school. He came running after me. He pushed me up against the wall. I pleaded with him not to hit me, but the next thing I knew, I was on the ground screaming. He's also threatened to harm my parents, to kill them, and leave me living to suffer. He said, if he goes to jail, he will kill me or get someone to hurt me. He has gotten people to come to my house before. This is not the first time he has hurt me. But before, he was only pushing me and pulling me by my hair. So, right. He's charged with assault at this point. He gets out on bail, and he's ordered, as a condition of his release from jail, not to have any contact with the prosecution's witness, Sharon. He is phoning her repeatedly, and she says that he threatened to blow her brains out if she didn't drop these charges against him. He also purchased a .30 caliber rifle from the Edgewater pawn shop. He tells his friend George Coleman that he has bought this gun. George Coleman says he thought he was just running his mouth, but he says that he's going to use it to shoot people at Sharon's school. So Sharon ends up filing a bunch of additional charges. When she goes to the police, they take him up on charges of threatening phone calls and communicating threats. He's arrested, and this time he's going to be held at the Baltimore County Detention Center. And the staff there decided his behavior was behavior that was really going to require psychiatric evaluation. So he gets sent over to Franklin Square Hospital and then to Spring Grove State Hospital. He's diagnosed as having bipolar disorder and potentially having some depression. On December 16th, 1991, this is 2 days after he gets to Spring Grove, he escapes and he takes a friend's identification cards and he gets out of state. A month later, he shows up in Gooding, Idaho, and a woman there files a complaint against him that he has assaulted her 15-year-old daughter and threatened to kill the girl's brother. So we don't know what happens in this, but there's some police reports and some newspaper articles giving the basic accounts. We don't have firsthand accounts from the girl or the brother or the mom. While Gooding police were investigating the mother's accusation, Maryland State Police alert the state police in Idaho that they think Joby is hiding out in Gooding. And they describe him as unstable, and they believe that he's armed at this point with an automatic rifle, a 9mm handgun, and a shotgun. On the morning of January 17th, 1992, he barricades himself alone in an apartment. He tells police negotiators he's going to kill himself and that he's going to shoot people in a nearby parking lot if police advance on him. This standoff lasts 16 hours. And finally, a SWAT team hits the apartment with tear gas and they apprehend Joby. And it takes a while, but he finally gets sent back to Maryland. So he's only been out of jail a year at this point, not even a year. He's now facing charges of violating a federal gun law. And when I look them up, it's a little difficult to see the translation from 1992. It looks like he's in violation of a restraining order, in violation of his parole or post-release supervision. And because of the crimes he's been charged with, he's also potentially a felon in possession of a firearm. He's also now accused of battering and threatening Sharon, and he's got this escape charge from Spring Grove Hospital. So anything he does at this point, like even a misdemeanor conviction, he's going back to prison to finish his original sentence, and they're going to stack a bunch of stuff on top of his charges. So his lawyers come in and argue he is clearly not well, okay?
I feel like there's no argument to it, right? I mean, he's not.
Right. So he ends up being sent to an evaluation at a federal correctional institution in Petersburg, Virginia. His stay there is going to set the tone for the next 3 years. And all that's really going to happen here is he is going to learn how to navigate, and according to the article out of the Baltimore Sun, potentially manipulate the federal mental health system. So in the course of this evaluation, Joby tells the psychologist evaluating him at FCI that he had illegally purchased the gun at the pawn shop to kill the, quote, ninjas who were trying to kill him. He cut his wrist twice, and once it was deeply enough that it required some sutures. He tells the psychologist who comes to talk to him that a little voice in his head told him to do it. He is going to boast to girlfriends that the cutting himself was really just to fool the system. And if this is true, and the girlfriend's recounting of this is true, it worked. The federal psychologist diagnoses him as being schizophrenic with a paranoid type disorder, and they conclude that he meets the criteria of legal insanity. That decision leads to him being found not guilty on the federal charges of his possession of these firearms. 15 months later, after he goes through court-ordered treatment at multiple facilities, he is declared to have made a full recovery. But according to the psychiatric papers, they state he had not been taking his medication, and then also state that his condition is now stable with no evidence of any of the bizarre behavior or verbalizations which might have been indicative of delusional thinking. So they write it up as if he had indeed suffered from a major mental illness in 1992, he is now fully recovered by September 1994. They diagnose him with a not otherwise specified personality disorder. But they say that he has antisocial and borderline features, which to me means whatever this last psychiatrist is, they get it. They get that he is conning his way out. And his lawyers are going to admit later on that they feel like he has been able to con doctors into and out of programs. But in any event, whatever's happened, Joby's mother agrees to bring him back into her house as long as he remains stable. She thought that he had been in a stress-free situation. No one was provoking him, and maybe that was what cured him. So he comes home. He's no longer facing prosecution for beating Sharon because those assault charges have been dismissed. While he's been institutionalized, his lawyer was able to successfully argue that his right to a speedy trial had been denied. And that same argument did not prevail with another judge who was overseeing the escape charges out of the hospital. He does get a 3-year suspended sentence in January of 1995, and he's put on 5 years of probation. So still, we aren't to our story yet, but we're getting there. This is a lot, right? This is a lot for somebody to be, what is he at this point in time? He's going to be 27 years old when he gets 3 years probation here.
Yeah, it's a lot.
We're going to fast forward to the hostage situation because that's the reason you're all here, and that is what we're doing. Over the years, Joseph Pelczynski, Joby, has managed to be an electrician. They describe him as a bodybuilder. I think he was just a fitness guy. He had been in and out of prison and mental institutions through March 7th of 2000, which is where we sort of pick up on this story. From the Baltimore Sun, they have an article that is marked up as June 30th, 2019 from Nancy Youssef and Tanoa Morgan. It looks like it was published at a different time and then updated. They pick up and tell us a couple of things about this guy. The main thing that they tell us is March 7, 2000, a triple homicide has occurred in the quiet community of Bowley's, B-O-W-L-E-Y, or Bowley's Quarters, which is near Middle River. It's a suburb east of Baltimore. It's an area that does not have violent crime. But George and Gloria Shank, 49 and 50, respectively, and their neighbor David Myers, 42, they were shot to death during what is believed to be a kidnapping. Tracy Whitehead, then 22, is believed to have been kidnapped and driven away in Joby's mother's car. So George and Gloria Shank, they had taken Tracy Whitehead in after she said she was being abused by Joby. She had left him. She was going to move into her own apartment. She was getting away from her parents' house where she had been living, and this triple homicide occurs. That right there is why all those other things were red flags. This guy was always dangerous, and now he has committed a triple homicide. He is going to be missing for 10 days after this. But
with her, right?
With her. But he's the subject of an intense manhunt. Every available law enforcement unit in this area, in the suburbs, are looking for him. They have a roadblock set up. They have highways blocked off. They have surrounded this area where they believe Joby is. On 2 occasions, Joby gets away from them. He gets through the barriers. He's not captured. It was believed that he was trying to contact a longtime friend named Kevin Massengill. During the evening of Wednesday, March the 8th, it is believed that Joby attempted to hijack a car. So this car is driven by a 36-year-old woman. She's pregnant. She's the mother of a 2-year-old daughter. And she is fatally wounded after she is hit by a ricocheted bullet in front of her family during this unsuccessful carjacking attempt in Chase, Maryland, which is sort of to the east of Baltimore. It's a little unincorporated community there. He is able to later carjack an 81-year-old woman, and she's not injured. But following this incident, Joby takes Tracy Whitehead to the El Rich Motel on Pulaski Highway, and they're in room 25. He sees the death of Jennifer McDonald on the news. The carjacking is reported, and he realized that his guns are outside in the vehicle he had just stolen, and that's the vehicle they're going to be looking for. So he drags Tracy outside to retrieve them, and as they step outside, Tracy runs to a police car that's nearby, and Joby flees. So we start this on March 7th. We move to March 8th. He's kind of off the radar for 24 hours. And we find out that Friday, March 10th, he has made his way into Virginia. He actually kidnaps a man named William Lewis Terrell. And he orders this Virginia man to take him back to eastern Baltimore County. Investigators say that he probably got on a train to get to Virginia. He tells William Lewis Terrell that he had paid a woman for a ride. During this kidnapping, he orders Mr. Terrell to drive him up to a shopping center in another little Baltimore community called White Marsh. Now, this shopping center has a Best Buy and a Target, and he essentially drags this guy on a shopping spree. He orders him to purchase some food and various survival equipment, and he also orders him to get a battery-operated television, and he threatens that he's going to shoot whoever's around if William Terrell does not comply. For whatever reason, Terrell goes along with it, probably, the threat of death. But the following morning, March 11th, police are going to find William Terrell in his pickup truck at about 3:30 in the morning after Joby has let him go. According to Terrell, he says he relied on his faith during the ordeal, and he kept his promise not to call the police. He couldn't help the fact that the police found him. So he is among several people whom Joby has come in contact with since this first triple homicide and this second ricochet bullet killing. Like, he's got 4 murders in 4 days, basically. I know the chunk of them, the bulk of them happened the first day, but that's not good odds. So Friday, March 17th, Joby gets around a roadblock and he manages to make his way over to Dundalk, Maryland. For some reason, he decides the best move right now, instead of getting away, is to go to Tracy Whitehead's mother's house and to confront her mother, Lynn's boyfriend, Andrew McCord, and their 12-year-old son, Bradley. So Bradley doesn't understand what's happening. He does not understand that there's something deeply wrong with Joby. So he lets him in. For the following 97 hours, so starting Friday, March 17th, for nearly 4 days, Joby holds his family hostage, and he ignores the request of law enforcement and multiple hostage negotiators to release them. And occasionally, he fires shots. During the standoff, the neighborhood is shut down. No one's allowed in, and police have defined an area around the McCord home as the, quote, inner perimeter. And all the area residents are asked to stay at a shelter that's set up in a nearby elementary school. The police are having to enforce this in one of the weirdest ways I've ever heard, but I knew it was possible. They are arresting people who violate the perimeter. Okay, so in the course of 10 days, we've had a triple homicide, a killing during an attempted carjacking, and at least 2 other carjackings. And now, for some reason, we are at Tracy Whitehead's mom and mom's boyfriend's home. What do you think he did that?
Well, Tracy wasn't there.
No.
She had escaped from him, right?
Right.
And so he was going to use them as leverage to get her back.
Yeah.
That's why I would imagine he's there. This dude is going nowhere fast.
Yeah, this is insane, right?
And because this isn't just a spat, this is like he murdered innocent people, right?
Right.
He's pretty much spiraling completely out of control. And like, there's no redemption to be had. He just doesn't know what else to do but like aim for the same thing he was trying to aim for before it all started, which would be to have complete control over his girlfriend or his Tracy Whitehead, right?
Right.
And it doesn't really matter because it's not going to end well for him no matter what. It's just he has no ability to change gears at this point.
Yeah. So the police keep this perimeter set up. They're arresting people who are violating the perimeter.
And that's probably because during the course of this, he's shown how he's able to manipulate people by threatening them into doing things for him, right?
That's what I think they're getting at, is they're trying to keep him from getting away this time and getting someone either as another hostage or as like sort of a person who's going to sneak him out of these barricades.
I think that's why they resorted to those arrests.
Yeah, I believe that's what is going on there too. I agree with you. So the Baltimore County Tactical Squad, they requisition a house. So they take over this house by force that is close to the McCord's house. There's a barking dog in the house, and they shoot and kill the dog. And I got to say, this is a terrible story, but that was one of the worst things I read about them killing the dog.
It was absolutely unnecessary.
Yeah. So Joby has one demand and only one demand. Guess what that demand is?
That he wants them to bring him or to talk to Tracy Whitehead.
Correct. He wants to talk to Tracy Whitehead. And police say they're not going to do it.
Well, right. But his whole thing is, again, this is pointless at this point, right?
Yeah.
He's going to jail for murder. And it's completely pointless at this point. But yet he can't stop himself. It's like an obsession.
Right. And so the police aren't going to let him talk to Tracy Whitehead. The main reason they're not going to let him talk to Tracy Whitehead is because it's his only request. They're pretty convinced that the moment they let the two of them talk, what's going to happen is he's going to threaten her. They're not going to have control over what she says back. And in order to, quote, punish her, he is going to kill at least mom while Tracy's on the phone, possibly all of the hostages. It has been reported that he also wanted to speak with his own mom. I don't know how true that is. I've read a couple of different versions of this, and I've seen at least one little documentary that kind of touched on this, but it's from a really long time ago. I wasn't able to find it to rewatch it. But it was one of the things that kind of alerted me to this story in the first place when they were telling bits and pieces of this. During the time that all this is going on, by the way, it was said that police have Tracy Whitehead at a location that they don't disclose to anyone under 24-hour guard. Afterwards, it's revealed they basically had her in an inner room at a nearby Holiday Inn during all of this. So this lasts until Tuesday night. And Tuesday night, which is going to be March 21st, the adults in the house, Andrew McCord and Lynn Whitehead, they take matters into their own hands. They dose Joby's iced tea, and they wait for him to fall asleep. And Andrew McCord sneaks out of the house while Joby is asleep. Now, there's a lot of criticism of the parents in this, and Joby doesn't end up waking up. Lynn gets out of the house. They leave the kid behind. I believe he's sleeping on the kitchen floor. And the thinking was that the police would be able to get to the kid. And the officers outside from the tactical squad, they panic and end up breaking into the house. And they panic over whether or not Brad is safe. So the idea that was explained later on is the parents felt like if they woke the boy up, it might startle him or upset him, and it could potentially wake Joby up. They thought they had one chance to get out. And if the adults were able to escape, they thought the police would act quickly and be able to save the boy. According to the officers at the scene, Joby was seen lying on top of his guns. He sits up as the officers come inside the house to rescue Bradley. And the officers shoot him and they kill him. Now, the events of this are on live TV, by the way. Not the actual shooting itself, but everything else that's happening. He's dead. And an investigation into this whole encounter at just the McCord house, it ends up revealing that there were no drugs or alcohol in his system other than the Xanax that the McCords had given him. He did not have a weapon with him, so there were some people that questioned whether or not the shooting was justified because he was unarmed at the time. I don't know that I have that many questions about this particular shooting. I question the quantity of the shots because they shot him 27 times according to the autopsy. This guy had proven himself to be really dangerous. Even though he's nice to some people, he had committed a triple homicide within the same month of this happening. You know what I mean?
Well, right. It was literally what led up to this.
Right. So for the most part, this is over. A lot of lawsuits come out of this. There's no way to really get justice for these people, but they do end up charging one person. Did you see this, by the way?
I'm not sure what happened.
So they end up charging, I think I'm checking the jurisdiction. It's federal. They charge a woman named Constance Ann Wall.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
She was 48 in 2000. She was charged with making a false statement in connection with the purchase of a gun. So the idea is she supplied him with the shotgun and the rifle that he ended up using to kill these people.
Right. And so this would be a good case. If somebody's like, what does it matter if I get somebody a gun? Well, this is what it could matter.
Right. So she does this straw purchase. He told her he couldn't buy a gun because of his prior record, but he wanted the guns for target practice, according to an affidavit that ends up being filed in connection with her arrest. It says that she went into a gun shop with Joby, bought a Mossberg 512 gauge shotgun and a sling for it, and a pistol grip and ammunition. She also purchased AR-15 rifle and 320 round magazines. So they bought one gun at one store, and then she went to another store to buy the AR-15. She pays quite a bit of money. It's about $2,000 that she pays for these guns. And he gave her a handmade bill of sale indicating that he was paying her for the AR-15 and the shotgun. And then the next day, he uses the weapons in a triple homicide.
Right. And so lesson learned would be that adults who are allowed to have guns by law can buy them themselves, right?
Right.
And if they can't buy them, you probably don't want to be the one buying them for them.
Right. Yeah. I did find that interesting. So Andy McCord, the boyfriend of Tracy Whitehead's mom, Lynn, he tries to claim the reward. Do you know about this?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't get it, though.
No, he ends up not getting the reward. There was a reward that had been posted for his capture for $10,000, but because the police shot him dead, it didn't count. And I was like, that is the weirdest.
Well, and he didn't. So to collect the reward, he needed to call the Crime Stoppers tip line.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, but he didn't he called 911 because of the way the events unfolded. Like he was reporting like a guy holding them hostage in their house. So he called 911. In order to claim the reward, you had to call Crime Stoppers.
Right.
But he didn't do that, so it didn't count, and he didn't get it. And not to mention, rewards for fugitives are crap. Like, you should never, ever, ever accept a reward. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I was sort of familiar with this area. I had known about like another series of homicides that had taken place nearby. But I wanted to include this one because it doesn't really fit in with a lot of the other stuff that we've done. We talked about something similar, haven't we, at one point? It wasn't this case, I don't think.
No, we've never talked about this case, but we've talked about several different things that could be seen as similar, I guess.
Yeah, there's at least one where, do you remember the one where like somebody kills someone at school and then goes to a nearby house, that whole thing?
Yeah, just vaguely.
I don't think we've ever talked about this one before on the show, but I thought it was a good place to slide it in.
It's very interesting. The perpetrator ends up dead. Right?
Yeah.
And he accomplished absolutely nothing. And he had a traditional motive of he was after what from his perspective was love, but it was clearly obsession, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he had serious problems. However, personality disorders in and of themselves aren't really mental illness, right?
Right.
It's more like a nice way to say character flaws or assholes. I mean, that's what a personality disorder is.
There's a lot more to read about this case out there in terms of the Baltimore Sun stuff. You do have to go digging through the Wayback Machine, but if you're just wanting to go down that rabbit hole, some of what Meg is saying is really well illustrated in, I think it's on the DART Award page archive where they have the Joseph Pelzinski story, which the story came from the Baltimore Sun. But it's a great story to get into. It's a really tragic story in terms of everything that happened.
It really is, but it's also the premise of what happened here is a good way to illustrate how an abuser is going to abuse whomever he has a relationship with, because he did it with all these different girls. And like, I know that this is a different time and place that it's happening. And back then, domestic abuse was worse, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the domestic violence, like protection orders and stuff, were at their inception in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of chauvinistic domestic abuse was ignored at different points. Now, this just so happened that, this is a girlfriend-boyfriend situation, and it's different. However, it's a good illustration of like, this dude just had problems.
Oh, yeah.
The girls weren't really doing anything wrong, but it started from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Right?
It did. And like, it's almost a textbook case for like anything can happen in domestic situations, like from the perspective of how quickly and violently the abuse can escalate to the fact that like you don't know what someone is experiencing at home. Like there's so many things about this that are so textbook because he is such a weird, violent asshole. And like,
he really is. And he had problems. The issue is, well, in my opinion, he never quite grew up because he's acting like a child having a tantrum and trying to bully these girls into submission, I guess. I find it interesting they were able to drug him with Xanax to get him to go to sleep deep enough that they could escape, right? I don't know about the whole like kid thing. I feel like there's a whole lot of reasoning on either side of that, leaving Bradley.
Right, yeah.
But ultimately, I would say that it's a very good, it's interesting to see how now he was older at this point, but we talked about some of his younger love relationships, but how like it can just go off the chain wrong, right?
Oh, absolutely. I felt like there's more to read. I kind of left it out because I feel like it's more identifying and probably the most recent stuff. But the Tracy Whitehead story is told in the pages of the Baltimore Sun's Joseph Pelzinski story. It is a really good read. It just like his abuse gets so bad as he goes. I mean, obviously we're escalating to murder, but the things that he does to that poor girl are especially heinous, in my opinion. So when he dies, like he's made it to, just past 30, but then all of this is just terrible.
Another thing about this case is it illustrates why, we need to have a justice system, because I would say that the world didn't lose anything when he was killed.
Yeah, and I don't usually like to speak that way about defendants.
I don't like to say that either.
He got every chance. Not only did he get every chance, like he was still conning his way. Like he wasn't taking anything seriously. And I definitely think that last doctor knew that this guy was antisocial and had other stuff on top of that. I don't know if it's like an influenza case or what, because he always pops up with another sports car.
To me, this is a guy making the same bad choices over and over again.
I would agree with that.
And sometimes domestic abuse stems from a place of a guy being an asshole and not being able to come to grips with the fact that it's not just his world.
Right. I agree with you.
And that is an unbelievable phenomenon to me, because on the one side, you end up here, and on the other side, you get over yourself and you have a perfectly fine life.
Yeah.
And so it's dumb, right? And I don't know what the dynamics are that shape which side. And don't get me wrong, a female can be the same way, okay? But I don't know. It's a combination of things that happen or don't happen to people that either help them get over themselves or not. And it is what it is.
Well, I personally think when you see a pattern of someone sticking with younger people like he was, particularly he stuck with that sophomore, junior high school type age,
right.
That's because they want to control and manipulate somebody.
Of course. And that is exactly why you have to be careful. That's why adults aren't allowed to there's no such thing as a consensual relationship of someone under 18 with an adult, right?
Right.
And, you do have situations that occur where the adult isn't abusing it, but it's still the same, right?
Right.
I'm just saying that this is the exact thing you're looking for. And you can tell a lot. And I didn't realize until I got older how targeted things are sometimes, people looking for people they can specifically manipulate into doing things, right?
Yeah, especially when you get kind of mid-20s people going after teenagers. There's
it's really weird, and it's a weird dynamic. And anytime you've got ulterior motives, it's not going to go well, I don't think.
No, it doesn't.
And I'm always the one going, you need to not bully people, yeah. Right? And that's exactly what he got away with all of his situations. He was just a bully, and that's how he got what he wanted. And he never grew up and said, oh, maybe life would be better if I didn't act that way, because it didn't make his life good. I mean, he was dealing with uncontrollable anger for things that he could have worked through and not got angry about, right?
And he had every chance and every resource at his disposal.
It seems like it. And so this is, everybody faces a little bit of this. And it's the decisions that are made and what ends up happening typically that, you get over yourself. Because see, at the end, he had killed 4 people. He had killed 4 people, and he's still going after Tracy Whitehead.
Correct.
And why is he doing that at that point? Well, because he was very singularly focused on this one obsessive thing.
He was.
He didn't take off. He didn't leave town. He went to her parents' house, right?
Yep.
And it's okay, so he just couldn't break away from it. And if he could have made other choices, if somebody could have said, hey, dude, chill out. But at the end of the day, it was on him. I do realize that he did receive a lot of resources, but they can't do everything. The doctors can't do everything, especially not for personality disorders, because there are medications that can help ease some of the often seen signs of personality disorders, but it's not going to do all the work for you.
No, I mean, ultimately he's got to make a choice, and he did make choices. He just kept choosing not love. I don't know what it is.
It's control. It was power and control. The behavior was blatantly obvious. And I do realize that sometimes people maybe don't realize it. Like when we started and he took the 14-year-old and his girlfriend in high school after she gave him some ice cream and he's like walking them and, you know, yelling at them and stuff. Like, you don't have to tolerate that garbage. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? Turn around and tell him no. And then, you know, but that kind of thing, like, I get it. But like, you're like, oh, my boyfriend's just like that. Well, you don't need a boyfriend like that.
No,
Right?
not at all.
Nobody needs a boyfriend like that. You should never be putting up with that type of behavior. And you're not going to be able to fix that issue. It's their issue.
Yeah, I think this case serves like. I just wanted to point this out before we wrapped up. The unique distinction of being a hostage taker who kind of had taken hostages multiple times.
He did, and it was excused. The behavior was excused. And see, I'm not entirely certain that, I know it didn't help.
Yeah, right.
Now, granted, if he had done that at the younger age, which he was too old to have done it the first time we heard about it anyway. But if he had like learned from that and not done it again, then fine. If he had realized like, I don't want to be that guy who has to, you know, act so abusive towards everybody, because that 14-year-old kid, I mean, what the heck? What are you doing? But it's a reflection on the person doing this, the abuse, right?
Right.
The abuser, that they have inadequacies that make them unsure. They're not confident in the relationship. They're concerned. They want to have power. They've got to control the situation. And it's not anything that everybody on earth doesn't feel at some point or another. It's just most normal people work through it and go, well, I can't control everything, and that's not really what I want anyway. And like, oh, it'd be ridiculous if my 18-year-old girlfriend was interested in her best friend's little brother. Or if she is, then maybe they should go and live a happy life, and I don't belong in this situation. Like normal people reactions, right?
Right.
And he just wasn't having that. But he did have several situations that he didn't get stopped, I guess.
Oh yeah, there wasn't a wall.
Like where the cops were, which I mean, he did get in trouble for several things. It's just, it wasn't enough to make him like wake up and realize. And see, I don't even know what you do in that situation, right? I just know that it's the more normal thing to snap out of it almost.
Or make better choices.
Or that's what I mean. But the reason that you make better choices because you go, wow, what's wrong with me? Why did I just do that really stupid thing? Right.
Yeah.
Like when you truly love, you know, your partner, you're not like trying to control them, and you realize like, oh, we should be together because we want to be, not because I'm like bullying her into it. Right.
Oh, 100%. Yes.
And so like eventually like a kid, a young man or young woman, you know, they could have some of that behavior, and it would be, I'm not going to say like it's natural. I'm not going to say like it's healthy or normal, but it's a natural reaction. But you wake up, right?
Yeah.
And you go, well, wait, that doesn't make any sense. And then you snap out of it, and, you know, life goes on. But in some cases that doesn't happen. And in some cases, you know, people are just mean and they want to be mean, and that's all they're ever going to be. Just like the people who are trying to protect Tracy Whitehead in this situation, they are murdered.
Yep.
For trying to protect her from this obsessed guy who ends up dying anyway. It was all completely pointless.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, like I said, as we got closer, I realized some of them were getting darker.
This is a very dark case, but it's got a lot of facets to it that make it relevant, I think.
Yeah, I felt like it was relevant. I felt like one of the interesting things about it was even some of the summaries I read online were kind of wrong. They missed that whole first part of his life, which is why I went back and kind of told some of that at the beginning. And like, there was way more to, like, that is not even, I would say it's not even a quarter of the story. But like, if you want to go read more, there's more there. It gets so dark so early in his life that, and because we're focused on the hostage taking part, I sort of moved ahead, but I wanted to give people a taste of what he'd been doing. He did more, but like I wanted to give a taste of what he'd been doing so that people understood this was It's actually even darker than we present. We just chose to present it in a way that fit in with the hostage taking episodes, and I find it fascinating, and I find the whole thing incredibly tragic for so many different people.
Special consideration was given to True Crime Excess by LabrattiCreations.com. If you have a moment in your favorite app, please go on and give us a review or a 5-star rating. It helps us get noticed in the crowd. This is True Crime XS. True Crime Excess is brought to you by John and Meg. It's written, produced, edited, and posted by John and Meg. You can always support True Crime Excess through Patreon.com, or if you have a story you'd like them to cover, you can reach them at TrueCrimeAccess.com. Thank you for joining us.